Hi guys, so in today's video I'm going to be making, well, I've already played the song that we're going to make, and this is, this type of music was famous in the sort of 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and it was it was written by three people, and they called themselves SAW, so it's SAW, and this was Stock, Aitken and Waterman, and most of this stuff was released through Waterman's record label, which at the time was PWL, which stood for Pete Waterman Limited. It's now known as Pete Waterman Entertainment, so PWE, and they would have the likes of Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, all sorts of stuff like that. Never Gonna Give You Up was one of their big hits. As you can tell, this song that I've made here was heavily influenced on that. So I've been asked by a subscriber just to go into a bit more detail about this. So I've made the track, and what makes this type of music stand out is these guys wrote hit after hit after hit in the 80s. Very, very famous. Most of the hits from them were fantastic. Like I said, Kylie Minogue, they had stuff like Kylie Minogue. Even Cliff Richard had a few songs on there as well, and Sonia as well was a big one. So I'll take you through this, and I'll talk about some of the elements to this track. And this type of music, which was, like I said, late 80s, early 90s, is known as sort of high energy music because there's not a lot of breaks and stuff in it. When you would have listen to normal songs, they have, like, especially today when the structure's a bit more rigid, you would have a drop where it drops down and gives the crowd or people a chance to get their breath back, and then it goes into a drop. Whereas these types of music didn't really have that. They would have maybe a middle section where they would do something completely different, maybe stick a rap or something in there, or just change the chords around, or just something to split the track up. And then a lot of the tracks towards the end, they will go up two semitones, which is what I've done in this track. And one of the key things about this is obviously that the bass lines they were very well known for the bass lines, and I did a bit of research on this. A lot of the stuff were done. There was always like a DX7 and stuff like that in the studio. So what we've done for this one is we'll start with the bass. Now this was done on the Viking, which is a free synth that you can download. And what we've done with this, we've just got an OTT again, which is free, and we've just added some EQ to it. We've cut some of the low end off, the rumble, and we've just boosted it up in the middle so it comes out a bit clearer in the mix. Let's just zoom in on this and take a look. So we've got the normal, as you can sort of see, the chords, or the bass would be sort of like D, F, D, and then G. But what we've done here is we've just played around with them a little bit. We've added extra accents in the bass notes. So if we, for example, go into this and we just take away maybe some of the bass note, the sort of the accents that are in there, and sort of play it, you would have something like this, which wouldn't sound out of place in sort of a riff from sort of today's type of music. But let's go back in and undo that. So we've added a couple of different accents in there to give it a bit more of a vibe. As you can tell, it just flows a lot nicer. And what we've gone here with the DX7 Dex, which is again is a free synth you can download. I have shown this in other videos on how to get the original Dex sounds as well. This goes through track 10, and all we've got on this is some EQ. So remember back, like I said, in the early 90s, late 80s, they had obviously had they had compressed and stuff like that, but they wouldn't do a lot of processing really onto each individual track. So that's what I've done. I've tried to keep it as clean as possible, just maybe using some compression and some EQ, just to try keep it as sort of authentic as possible. And so these are the chords we've gone for. And these are sort of different from, standard chords. As you can tell here, the D, we've gone down one at the top. We pulled that just note down one, just to give it a bit of a different sound. So you can take a look at the chords. What we'll do is we'll actually go on to that add one, did it? There we go. So if we go back in and add what the chords would normally be, your basic sort of minor and major chords, which probably a lot of you probably know a bit better. We'll just quickly draw these in. So as you can see, we've added a couple of different chords in there to give it a bit more of a an 80s sort of PLW sort of feel. So we've got this distinguished note in here at the top. This chord's basically the same. This chord's basically the same, but we've added a C note in here again, and then we've added an F note in here. Like I said, we've added a couple of different notes in there just to give it a bit more of a feel, more of the 80s sort of style feel. Then we've got this sort of string sound, which is coming from the N6, which again is another free plugin. Now with this, we have EQ'd a lot of the bass out, and we've added a chorus in. The reason we've added the chorus in is to make it sound a bit wider, because without it, it sounds very mono and straight down the middle. And we'll just show you what we've done with this. There we go. Then we have this sort of pedal lead, just something to add a bit more rhythm into it, and this comes from the Dext again. And all we've done with this is just cut the low ends out and added some ping pong delay in, quite a lot of ping pong delay actually. And then we've gone for a little tom fill here, just a very basic fill. And you can experiment with those yourself, obviously pitching them up and down and stuff. So the bread and butter of the tracks would be the sort of drums. Now the drums, the drums to these sort of tracks have a lot going in them, and they would have a lot of elements in them to make them so you could basically get away with a bass and a keyboard, because they wouldn't have a lot of stuff playing. So you could get away with a bass and a piano playing. And the track will still sound full because of the little things to do with the drums. So they pack the drums out to make the track sound fuller and more exciting. So first of all, we're going to go with the kick. And there's nothing on the kick, so let's add the kick. And we'll add the drums in one at a time, and you can hear how the track's building and moving along and fill it up. So as you can tell there, with the drums, there is a lot of stuff sort of going on. And there's a lot of little accents in there and little fills and stuff, just to keep the drums very, very interesting. So when you had the bass line in there, and again, because the bass line is quite busy, the chords are very basic. But, you know, even though you've only got some drums, a bass line, and like a keyboard playing, it still sounds pretty full. And then if you was to obviously add vocals on top of that, you would have basically a full track. So you don't need to add a lot of elements into these types of tracks. Then in the middle, we've just cut the drum beat up a little bit, just to give it something a bit different. Just change the bass around, and same with the piano. We've just changed a couple of the notes around on the piano, just to make it sound a bit different. And then towards the end, all we've done is gone up 2 semitones. So look, this is on F. This is on D. So we've just gone up 2 semitones. Just to stick with the sort of, there we go, stick stick with the sort of structure of a track, and then at the end we've just gone back down just to finish the track off, and that comes to about 3 minutes. It might be a little bit short, but you know, we've obviously added more vocals in there. I'm sure we could extend it a bit, but you get the general gist of it. So I'm going to break down, like I said, what I'll do is I'll run through a couple of the key elements in the sort of tracks and the sort of styles. So drums are very important. Keep your drums nice and busy. Plenty of stuff in there. Plenty of hats and congos and little hits here and there. Keep your bass line as well nice and funky. Remember, once you've got your standard bass line in, maybe go in and fiddle with a few of the notes around. You know, bring them down to semitones here and there, or add an extra one in just to make it move along a bit more. And then, like I said, a lot of the DX7 was very popular and famous in this sort of music camp. So again, you can use the Dex synth. All these synths are free, so you can grab this one. This is free, and Dex is free, and the Tyrrell is free as well. So they're sort of all free plugins you can use. So yeah, that's about it really for this tutorial. I'm going to be giving away some of these samples soon. I'll probably do a little pack if anyone's interested in getting their hands on like a little PWL sample pack. Let me know. I'll maybe give one away for free in the next couple of days or something. But that's it, guys, for about this. What I'll also do is this project file as well. I'll actually put in the link below, so you can download this yourself. So you get to keep some of these drums and stuff. So even if you don't use FL Studio, you can still download the project file, and when you unzip it, it will contain all the drums in WAV for you. So obviously you won't be able to load this up and use this file in like Ableton or something, but you will be able to sort of load the open the zip up and pull out all the WAV. The drums will all be in there as separate little WAV shots, so you can just drag all those out and use them in different different DAWs if you want. But again, if you're using FL Studio, then obviously you can load this up and have a play about it yourself. But that's about it, guys, for this video. Thanks for watching.